Hi, this is Tony, Cover Magazine. I'm speaking to Andries Labuschagne, the MD of InsureAfrica. Andries, thank you very much for connecting with me. It's great to see you.
Fantastic to be here, Tony, and great to see you too.
Yeah, InsureAfrica. It sounds very big, insuring Africa. So maybe you can just tell me, what is the InsureAfrica value proposition and what type of solutions do you offer?
Yes, Tony, maybe just a little bit about InsureAfrica. InsureAfrica is underwriting manager. I think we do more of the specialized risks. We operate within the long-term and the short-term environment. But I think this is more around the motoring sort of side that we're talking about today. And,
That's right.
and so I think from a value proposition point of view, what we try and do is we're very much partnership focused, and that is our ethos, and that is to work with. Being an underwriting manager, we obviously don't distribute. We distribute it through third parties, and so it's very important that we manage that relationship in such a way that it's easy for our partners to do business with us, and that we actually ultimately enable their business models. So we designed products, I would guess, that's sort of in the peripheral, and it often is associated with those little risk gaps that you find in the sort of comprehensive market, or may I call it mainstream policies, or what traditional insurance is all about. So to give the customer that extra peace of mind. Needless to say, if we want to have a strong partnership focus, we obviously need to focus on the customer. So we try and be empathetic as far as possible to the customer's concerns and needs, and we try and fulfill those needs as best we can. And basically act fairly, transparently, and have open communication with our customers. And then the products, that we offer in the motoring side of things is typically associated with your mechanical breakdown insurance, more commonly known as warranties, obviously, service plans, maintenance plans, little scratch and dent policies, your tire and rim sort of covers, all those risks that's not covered by more of your mainstream sort of, or a comprehensive policy, by way of example.
Yeah, I mean, adding to this, you mentioned the gaps. So how do you fit these into the broader insurance environment? Because some policies would have VAPS included, others won't, and VAPS might be available. How do you sort of negotiate that?
Okay, so I suppose if we look at a typical comprehensive motor policy, and you've got your sort of perils, if I may, or your fire cover, your accidental damage cover, etc. It's quite interesting, this conversation, because often when I'm invited to new people's homes and they ask me, what do you do? And I say, I'm an underwriting manager. Well, that's first of all, you can see my eyes glaze over. People don't know what that means. And then next, if I mention warranties or I mention scratch and dent policies, then you can see literally people avoiding you for the rest of the evening.
Yeah.
and it's quite interesting, you make it later on in the evening and somebody will kind of approach you and say, what is this warranty thing? And it's interesting how I find that consumers out there still kind of believe that if you have a mechanical failure, it's going to be covered by a comprehensive insurance. So they don't actually know that they're not covered for those type of things. And then the conversation will typically progress from there. But it's not a big deal, right? Because my manufacturer, the people that I bought the vehicle from, will cover those type of incidences. Then you start explaining to them, but what happens if you go out of the manufacturer's sort of guarantee? And did you know that they're not all the same? You're not covered for everything on a manufacturer's warranty. and then the conversation starts getting interesting, because I think from a warranty perspective specifically, I think there's a lot of consumers that assume that either I'm covered with comprehensive insurance, and others think, well, my manufacturer's covers everything. So, you know, end-to-end type cover is the belief system. And yes, so they're not all created equal, I'll acknowledge. But there are instances where your manufacturers are not going to cover you, and you're definitely not going to be covered by your comprehensive insurance. So these repairs are expensive. So,
yeah.
so I think it fits a nice little gap there. One, you know, the complaints that you often get around warranties is the fact that there's certain limits of indemnity, and it doesn't always cover all the costs. But you know, the counter argument is it covers a significant part of the cost towards the repair. And also, there are different type of options that will cover you more or less. The other argument that I think is important for consumers to know is, okay, I'm talking about the comprehensive policies, is I see a trend developing where consumers are fixated on the price of comprehensive insurance, and inadvertently they actually increase their excesses. Often forgetting that's self-insurance. So you're taking part of the risk on yourself. So in that instance, for a relatively inexpensive premium, if you like, you can have a little scratch and dent cover, which could cover you for those smaller incidences. So again, a nice little fit and not a very expensive product. But again, I don't think consumers always think of it, and the emphasis for me at least is on the fact that as financial advisors, we need to be far more involved in understanding where the possible risks exist and what we can do to mitigate those risks. And then I suppose the service plan side and the maintenance plan sides is another side of the coin, because service plans are those items that need replacing with regular intervals and mileages. And even in that, you know, I don't know, so I'm not mechanically minded. But certainly when I first had a car, you know, and you find out that your service plan doesn't cover brakes, by way of example, I kind of assume, well, why does it happen service time? So for me, it would make sense that you cover it, but those things I don't think is always well understood. So I do see value in these products. I do believe it's not for every consumer. But I think if you understand your customer and you understand where the pain points are, these products could be a nice way to address those pain points.
Yeah, I mean, the second-hand car market is massive, you know, and most of those people in that second-hand car market are exposed to, you know, buying an unknown risk, because you haven't driven that car before. It hasn't been your car. You don't know how well it was serviced, etc. So it does make sense. But just coming to that in terms of, you know, there's this issue in the insurance and in the motor environment about the right to repair. What is your view on right to repair, and how does that impact on the business?
So Tony, I think first of all we have to acknowledge it's early days. I stand to be corrected on the exact date. I think it came into being on the 1st of July last year, if I remember correctly. I think the exact implementation, there's a lot of lessons that we still have to learn. So what are my thoughts on it? From a consumer perspective, I think it's a very good thing. And now I'm going to be contrary and maybe a very bad thing. So from a consumer perspective, I think it gives you options and you can go to other repairers. But there's, I suppose, a greater onus on the owner of the vehicle to ensure that they're going to reputable repairers.
Mm.
I would almost want to suggest that you make sure that they have some sort of cover if something goes wrong. So I think maybe inadvertently we actually making it a little bit more difficult for the consumer to have certain assurances in terms of the quality of repair, the guarantees that's going to be carried on those repairs, etc. I think from an InsureAfrica perspective, though, we've been doing this for quite a while. We obviously mostly trade in the second-hand market on second-hand vehicles, if you look at warranties, etc. We do have new vehicles insofar as maintenance plans and service plans, but because you kind of get to know the repairers, I think from an InsureAfrica point of view, we've actually kind of been playing in the right to repair space for quite some time. Because we try and find reputable suppliers, reliable ones, and ones that's going to offer the consumer value at a reasonable price, decent quality, correct parts, not sort of the Hong Kong type stuff. I maybe shouldn't say that, but certainly quality components and quality workmanship. So from an InsureAfrica perspective, I don't see anything changing dramatically, although one thing that has changed in our environment, where we do have a maintenance plan on newer cars, we will now rather move that car to a specialist repairer. And people find that interesting, but there are very good repairers out there who's kind of left the corporate environment and that they started their own business. So I think from a social construct point of view in South Africa, it serves such an important because our unemployment rates are incredibly high. And we need businesses and we need people employed. So I think it offers the small business an opportunity to create something beautiful, and as long as they ensure that their quality and their workmanship is up to scratch and on par with what the consumer experienced at the franchise dealerships. But all in all, from my personal perspective, I certainly support the program. I think in the greater scheme of things, it's good for South Africa and our economy, and it gives smaller entrepreneurs opportunities, which ultimately lead to job creation and greater participation in our economy.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, just anecdotally, personally, I've been servicing my car and my kids' cars and my wife's car when they're out of warranty, all with the same guy for decades. And I trust him more than I trust any dealer, But yeah, I mean, that's just in one case. Just in closing, there's a variety of different products that you offer and different applications of those. Do you offer broker training? Because obviously, the broker underwriting skills and all of that's also just as important when it comes to these sort of, I would say, out of the ordinary type of products. How do you cope with that?
Yeah, so Tony, you make such an important point. I think these products tend to be rather technical, and I think as an insurance practitioner, I've been in insurance for the last 20 years, the motoring game the last 30 years. I do believe it requires sort of different skill set due to the fact that the components and typically the way components are referred to is often from a technical perspective. And as much as we try and make that accessible, I mean, there's just certain items that you can't explain it any better. So for us, training is a vital part of our business. In our interactions with our brokers, with our partners, we need to try and explain as best we can, because often the person selling the product is not technically minded, like myself. I don't necessarily know what every single component looks like and how it works. So we do quite extensive training, and we try and explain the principles as best as we can. But I think as a follow-up to that, we also offer them an opportunity to speak to our claims advisors, because they're all technically qualified. We tend to be rather circumspect in terms of who we employ. We try and employ somebody who's had experience in a workshop environment on the bench and who's actually repaired components. And that I think stands us in good stead in understanding exactly what is required. I think even from a consumer perspective, I think in all honesty, we need greater emphasis on education and training and maybe understanding of these products, because you know, a lot of these products get distributed at point of sale or when you're buying a vehicle. And I don't know about you, but when I'm buying the vehicle, I can't wait to get into the car. I'm not even interested in how I open the doors or windows or anything. I just want to drive out of there.
Yeah.
And I think in that environment, it's important for us to understand that there are consequences, and we need to explain to the customer what exactly he gets, what his expectations should be, and maybe even make him understand what the differences are between the different programs, maintenance plans, service plans, etc. So you walk out of there with the right expectation, and ultimately, from a claims perspective, that the outcomes are favourable for everybody. But I think I've gone on for quite a bit. But yes, we do train our partners quite extensively.
Yeah, I think, you know, knowledge sharing by brokers with their clients is highly underrated as a relationship builder, you know, and they should definitely grab that opportunity.
Yeah, I concur. I think it's, I sincerely believe in this digital age and what we're experiencing at the moment, if you're not going to differentiate yourself from that personal interaction point of view, I think you're going to have difficulty in the future. But that's my personal perspective.
I agree with you. On that note, thanks for sharing your knowledge with us and with Cover's audience.
Thank you very much for your time, Tony. It was great speaking to you.
Thanks, Andre. It was great seeing you again, Andries.
Thank you, Tony. Go well.